This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook and Nick Harrington.
And welcome back to the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Travis, and Brandon's pixels today.
Yeah, if I sound different and look different, I am currently in a hotel in Chicago for work right now, but the show must go on. We had to make sure we got this out since we didn't get a Toledo episode out last week. You know, a couple of us were under the weather, work scheduling, all that fun stuff. So we wanted to bring you guys a special one to make up for it before we even start recapping any games or anything like that. Travis, you had the opportunity during our break here to sit down with kind of a Toledo legend and the only Toledo goaltender I've ever seen wear a full Toledo goalie kit. Why don't you tell the folks about who we have on the show today?
Yeah, so reached out to Billy Christopoulos, who was kind enough to sit down with me for about a half hour. Talked a little bit of Air Force, a lot of Toledo. Just look back on his, I guess you would call it, season in 3 quarters because COVID canceled the first year he was here. It was a good time. Super nice guy. Nothing but great things to say about how much fun he had in Toledo.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited to sit down and listen to this one because I wasn't there for it, unfortunately, but I'm glad that you were able to get it scheduled solo and run your first solo interview on the show, man. You are what we now call the Elliot Friedman of Toledo, all right? You have all these phone numbers in your phone, you have these contacts, and now you're out here doing solo interviews with the people down there too. But it's for the fans, man. We love it. So we're not even going to waste any much more time here. We're going to toss it right over to Billy, and then when we come back from that, we'll recap the last 3 Walleye games, the school day game, the crazy game on Friday, and of course the Teddy Bear Talks game. But we'll throw it over to Billy now.
And joining me today is our first guest that's a Walleye alumni. He backstopped the Walleye for 2 seasons, accumulating a 59, 14, and 12 record, a Kelly Cup final appearance, and one of the best gear setups a goalie's had in Walleye history. Thanks for joining the show, Billy Christopoulos. Billy, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me.
And no problem, man. What you been up to since your playing career ended?
So that was, I guess this is season 3 now without hockey. So that was, me and, I'm not sure if you remember at the time, Brady Tomlak, we were both in the Air Force, and the program we were in that let us play hockey ended. So basically, right once the season ended, I shipped off to Dayton, Ohio, and I started the Air Force career out there. Did a couple years and then just moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina. So now just getting settled in here.
Are you enjoying life without hockey? Did you miss it?
Yeah, I definitely miss it. It's kind of a weird feeling. I didn't know how I was going to feel like when it was over, but yeah, definitely miss being around the guys, being in the locker room and stuff, and just the whole atmosphere of kind of like that's your life during the season. And it's it was definitely fun, and it's something look back on and just definitely cherish those years.
So I want to jump into Air Force. How did you end up in Air Force, really? Like, did you enjoy your time there?
Yeah, it's kind of a interesting story. So I started in Des Moines playing junior hockey, and the Air Force coach came out and offered me my first year there, and I went out and visited the campus. It was a super cool place, and but I was just like, I don't think this Air Force thing's for me. I don't know if I want to, commit all that time and basic training and boot camp stuff looked rough. So, I told him no and kind of just went out of back of my mind. And then come into my 3rd year juniors in Alberni, I had some other offers, but nothing that was kind of really sticking out to me, like what I really wanted to do. And then Air Force coach, reached out one more time and he's like, hey, we just lost our goalie that was supposed to be returning. So if you want to come in, you could be the guy. And super fortunate it worked out like that. Cause the time there was awesome. Met some great people, got some really cool experiences, and just super, super happy with how that all went down.
So I got to ask, where did the nickname Billy the Greek come from?
That was Coach Saratori at Air Force. He's a character. I'm not sure if you've seen any of that guy's his interviews. He's had some viral ones. He's like dressed up as Santa or something in post game interviews, and he says some off the wall stuff. But I think just one of these games after he just can't Billy the Greek, and he started yelling, and then it kind of caught on. So yeah, he was definitely one to come up with some nicknames, and that guy's got some all-time sayings.
So you mentioned that you were a part of a program. Can you go through that program that allowed you to play pro hockey?
Yeah, so it's called the World Class Athlete Program. Something I actually didn't know existed while I was going to the academy originally. So pretty much when you go there, you sign up, you say, hey, this is kind of going to be the end of my path for hockey. I know I've got the 4 years playing here, and then it's going to be over, and you kind of go do your Air Force time. But my senior year, the coach actually reached out to me, and he said, hey, they've got this thing called World Class Athlete Program, and they're interested in hockey this year if you'd be interested. So it's pretty much, it's an Olympic training program for the military academies. So usually you get a lot of track and field guys and girls and people who kind of, they're more geared to those Olympic sports. But the year that I was going through, I know the fans hated it, but the NHL was saying they weren't going to play in the Olympics. So that gave all the guys, the guys in the minors and college guys, like kind of a realistic opportunity to potentially make that team. So they looked at that and said, okay, this guy's actually got a shot to potentially be on that team. So that's kind of how we backdoored our way into that program. And it worked out.
Now, can you only do that for like one Olympic cycle?
Yeah, usually it's you do one Olympic cycle, and then I know a lot of, like I said, the track and field people, they'll end up going back to their Air Force job, and they'll kind of keep running, keep doing that stuff, and then they'll have to apply again. And I think the earliest you can do is like 2.5 or 3 years before the Olympics. So, they'll kind of do 3 years, and then they'll go to their Air Force job, and they'll keep running, keep training stuff, and then reapply. With hockey, it's a little different. It's kind of tough, especially as a goalie. If you take 2 years out, it's kind of I'm in Dayton, Ohio, so you can't really get realistic training there. So it's kind of the end of the path for us.
Yeah. Now we're going to transition to Toledo, but before Toledo, you started your professional journey with South Carolina, close to home for you.
Yeah.
What took you, how did you end up there?
With the world-class athlete thing, it was actually super last minute. So I was getting ready to go off to, my first time was going to be out in Boston. I was about 2 weeks away. So it was, I want to say August. I was getting ready to head out for my first assignment. And then that's when I got accepted into the program. So super, super last minute, everybody's scrambling, everybody's got all their guys already, rosters are already full, and just luck of the draw, South Carolina. I think it's actually kind of a crazy connection. We're family friends with the Hurricanes team dentist, and he somehow had a connection in the capital system, and he reached out to that guy, and he said, I think South Carolina could use a third guy or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'll take what I can get to this point. So I went down there as the third goalie, and kind of just, first year pro, not really knowing what to expect. I'm not playing in any games. I'm pretty much just practicing, not really traveling. So it was kind of it was a tough start for sure. But South Carolina is a pretty sweet place. And then, kind of the rest is history from there.
And then you end up getting a phone call that you're getting traded to Toledo. What went through your head initially? Yeah,
it was actually either Thanksgiving or the day before Thanksgiving. I want to say it was Thanksgiving. I'm back home in Raleigh because the team's traveling, and I wasn't on the road with the team because they're taking 2 goalies. And then Waddy called me, and he was like, "Hey, I think Pat Nags just got called up to GR, I think." And he was like, "Hey, we're in Reading, Pennsylvania tomorrow. Can you be here? Can you play it?" And I was just pumped. It was the first time I was going to be able to play a game. I had only played preseason games, so knew nothing of Toledo, knew nothing of the Walleye or anything like that. It's my first year. I'd only seen a handful of games in the Southern Division, so I was like, I'm gonna take what I can get, and showed up, got on a plane, and then showed up the day of and played that game against Reading, and it was awesome.
That's a crazy 24 hours, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's I feel like that stuff happens all the time in the coast. You always hear about these things of guys getting these calls, and then flying on the day of the game. Like that stuff happens all the time. And it's those things that you kind of look back, you're like, man, that's crazy, but it was awesome.
I mean, the minor league stories, we've heard so many on the show, but like, so when you get back to Toledo, what was your first impression of the Huntington Center?
Oh, it was awesome. I was like, this is sweet. That's like, this is what you're looking for when you're a pro hockey player, you know, in the ECHL, especially. It's like, so the rinks vary. It's crazy. Like you go to one place, it's just an absolute barn and like just kind of dungy and nasty. And then you get to Toledo and that's first class facility, the best rink in the coast, like by far. And the guys told me about like the fans and the atmosphere and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's probably pretty cool or whatever, but just the building itself. And I was like, this is awesome. Locker room suite. And then, yeah, I don't even remember the first home game, but I just, yeah, the atmosphere and the fans is just second to none.
Yeah, we got to see the facilities last week or 2 weeks ago. Brandon Hawkins showed us around, and man, you guys really have it nice down there.
Yeah. No, they got it set up pretty sweet. You got the saunas, the cold tubs, like everything you need, all the room you can get and all the room you need. And it's just, yeah, they do a good job of hooking you up. And I don't know if you walked through the equipment room, Dave's got a pretty sweet setup. So, you know, that's another thing when you're a minor leaguer, it's like, depending on the team, you're like, am I going to get like a t-shirt here or like
right.
You know, and then you come to Toledo and they just hook you up with all the gear, anything you could want. So that's another huge sell for sure.
Yeah. Their team gear this year is pretty cool. We've seen a few of them up close in person. It's like, man, that's a sweet hoodie. I wish I could get one.
I know. I got to text Dave. So, you know, the stuff we had when I was there, it was decent, but I'm seeing the stuff that's coming out now. I'm like, man, you get some alumni gear or what?
Talk about the fans. I mean, you probably had no idea what to fully expect in your first game there.
No, yeah, I had no idea. Like I'd only seen these ECHL games from the stands, and I was playing in the Southern Division. It's, you know, it's a fun place and it's good hockey, but they don't have quite the draw that, the Central, or I guess you guys kind of realigned, but whatever the division is now. But yeah, those first couple of games were insane. It's so fun, man. It's like I think back to my college days, and we were talking about the coolest place we ever played was UNO, like University of Nebraska Omaha. We opened up their rink, their brand new arena, and it was like a sellout crowd. And we were talking about that for years, and then day one in Toledo, it's like that's the crowd, and it's like that every single night. It's like a sellout every night, and fans are crazy. You get the walleye thrown on the ice, and just like, it's just a true small town hockey field, but it's still a pretty big city, so it's really cool.
Yeah, it's a special place. But you get here and you go on this unreal run. Like you couldn't lose essentially. You were like 23-3. Like it was crazy. Tell us about that run you guys went on.
Yeah, man, it was nuts. It was that was definitely fortunate to play behind like the most skilled offensive team I've ever played behind. It was one of those things where, I felt I was playing really good, but even if I had an off night, like I remember a game specifically, we were in Cincinnati and go down like 3-0 in the first period. And I'm just like, oh, gee. It's one of the first games I'm playing in Toledo. I'm like, oh, Jesus, here we go. This sucks. Like, these are games where I'm used to, like in college, like, you end up losing that 4-1 or 5-2 or something like that. And then halfway through the second period, it's already tied up. So it was like, yeah, it was just kind of that feeling. Like you said, it's like almost like you can't lose. Like we were never out of a game. Like didn't really matter what the score was after the first or after the second. And like, I wish I could see it, going back and see the stats of how many games we came from behind and stuff like that. So it was fun. And Kessner was on just like a blazing hot streak when I came in. So that helped too. And we had Henny and just, yeah, it was awesome.
You speak of Cincinnati. There's one game I got to ask about, the game with no fans, because COVID hits and then there was that one game with no fans.
Dude, that was eerie, man. It was weird. It was like never experienced anything like it, especially in, because Cincinnati is a huge rink, and it was creepy. Like you can hear everything that's going on the ice. You can hear all the guys talking. It's just like, it's a whole different it's a whole different game. And it was just it was a super weird feeling. I guess for me, luckily enough, playing at Air Force, we played in Atlantic hockey. So there were a couple rinks we played at that were completely empty. Like AIC used to play in Springfield's AHL rink. So it's like the same feeling. So I was like, oh man, this is kind of dark. It reminds me of going up to AIC, but yeah, that was a weird time for sure. Cause we had no idea what was going to happen. And then, yeah, it was creepy for sure. It was weird.
Do you think that year you guys would have won it? Like, do you think you guys could have won it all that year? Cause you guys were playing unreal when the pause happened.
Yeah, man, it was, we had a good streak going. I mean, when you get to playoffs, anything can happen, but I mean, that was as good of a team as I've ever been on. And like, we were hot at pretty much the right time. And yeah, it's one of those things where you really wish you could see how that would have played out, but it is what it is. And yeah, it's just, it was a fun team. And yeah, it would have been exciting to see where we could have gone with that one.
You, so COVID hits, Toledo ends up taking a year off. You go to Indy and played in Indy, but then you come back to Toledo. Did you come back kind of for some unfinished business?
Yeah, that exactly. After that Indy year, I had some choices. Obviously, like, hey, some of these teams want you to come here, but it's a no-brainer. We definitely had all the right pieces in the locker room, and just before that year, you've seen these guys sign one after another, and such, like, they're put the right pieces in play. And yeah, it was definitely that was a no-brainer coming back to Toledo.
That group in 21-22 was pretty special. Can you just reflect on that a little bit? I mean, you guys a couple games short of winning it all. I mean, it had to be an unreal group.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was just like all the right players and just unreal guys too. It's like we didn't have any of those problematic guys in the locker room, and it's most people throughout their career have been on a team or two where they kind of say that same thing where it's the successful teams aren't they're definitely guys in the league that were probably a little more talented than us. Maybe, I don't know. We had it all, but everybody on that team was awesome. It's just like the role players, all the way to the skill guys. It was a special group. And then to have, Henny come back like that and that was awesome. And that was Hawk's first year in Toledo. And that was fun to see him to start to, really take off there. And yeah, it was just it was a fun group. Guys were having a blast all year. And then again, that coaching staff was awesome too. It was perfect for the group we had. Waddy and those guys did a super good job with that team.
Talk about Waddy. I mean, we've heard so many great things, but what was he like with you?
Yeah, he was awesome, especially like coaching a goalie, because it's tough for some coaches because most of these coaches never played goalie, so that they kind of don't know, they don't know really how to get in the head of a goalie. But Waddy was awesome. He pretty much just let me do my thing. He would ask me like, hey, let me know if we're riding you too hard, if you want a day off, like how you want to play this. And basically him having his respect and his like trust in me was awesome. One of the probably the game that I'm most thankful why he was there for was playoff series against Utah. We were in Utah, and I think we went down 3-0 in the first period. And it was early in the first two. And after the first, he just came over. He's like, hey, like, if you want to come out, we'll put Milo in, and you kind of take the rest of the night off and, just regroup for tomorrow's game, or like, tell me what you want to do. And I was like, hey, we'll stay in this game. We got a shot. And then we came back and won that game. And it was one of those things where most coaches right after the third, it was like 3 goals on 6 or 7 shots or something. Like most coaches are just going to yank you right away and kind of just be done with it. But Waddy was such a player's coach, and he was so good at, talking to the guys and having a relationship with them, but not being too, you hear some of these player coaches, they're almost too buddy. Waddy was, he was pretty good at staying on that line of, being a player's coach, but at the same time, he's like, he's still a coach. He's not your best friend. He's still there to be respected. So yeah, unreal guy. And I actually, I got to reach out to him. I talked to him when he got the job initially in GR. So I had to check out how that's been going for him there.
I watched that Utah game. That was crazy because it started at like 9 o'clock our time and it ended at like midnight because it went to overtime.
Oh yeah.
And it was a late one. But
yeah, that was a crazy game, and yeah, that was fun. And that was kind of like what I was talking about earlier. It's like one of those things you just, with our teams, you could go down 3 goals, but it's just like, hey, you're never out of it. And it was kind of fun to just chip away and come back like that.
I got to ask about like your gear, your second year here. You got to get a full kit, and like most of the goalies that are here, it's all red and white, and it just looks so goofy with us being blue and yellow. But talk about your setup. Did you get any input, or did you kind of just leave it up to the designer, especially with your mask?
Yeah, for the pads, I had such a good relationship with the Vaughn guys because I used them basically my whole life. I was a Vaughn guy in college and stuff, and those guys are awesome. So I was like, hey, all right, this is probably going to be my last year playing. I was like, all right, just send me like 4 or 5 options of something sweet. Cause like the walleye colors you don't get to do something cool like that as a goalie very often. Like you said, these guys are mostly now wearing like the GR, the Detroit stuff, just red and white. So they shot me like 4 or 5 options for that. And for the mask was, he's actually the same guy I'd been painting my helmets in college too. And since we had the outdoor game, I was like, hey, I think it'd be pretty sweet to do like kind of an outdoor themed mask. So I just let that guy run with it because I gave him input on my first couple masks at college, and he did such a good job. I was just like, hey, I'm just going to give you kind of a basic idea, and then you do your thing. So yeah, that whole setup turned out awesome. It's like that couldn't have ended on a better setup. I was super happy with how it all turned out, and it was a good one to finish on for sure. That's a helmet that's definitely it's going to be displayed somewhere in my house forever. So
What was Winterfest like, man?
Dude, that was awesome. It was I feel like most guys at some point played an outdoor game, like even if it was just like a small one in college or whatever, or like guys growing up north are always out there playing outside. But I had never played outside, being from North Carolina, we're never playing outside in the winter. Obviously there's no rinks outside, and I didn't have any of them in college. So that was just the coolest experience. They did such a good job with it too. Like the whole setup and the turnout for it was amazing. I don't even remember the weather, but I think it obviously wasn't too bad because, I don't remember it being a bad thing. But yeah, such a cool place to do it too. The baseball stadium there is awesome, and just like you said, those yellow jerseys, the Hooks jerseys. Actually, it's on your wall back there. Yeah. Those were some of my favorites too. Those Winterfest jerseys. So yeah, super cool experience, and yeah, just pumped. I got one in my final year of hockey.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you had Billy the Greek, but then you get here and you become Goose. How did that happen? Because you had a college teammate with the nickname Goose, right?
Yeah, I did. And it's funny. I think when he first heard that, he like texted me. He's like, "All right, what's this all about?" But that actually wasn't my doing. It was. I want to say it might have even been the first night I was there in Reading. I can't remember which of the coaches said it. He just asked me because I knew I was an Air Force guy. So he goes, "You like Maverick or Goose?" And I was like, I don't know, Goose, I guess. And then it just stuck from there. He just called me Goose constantly. So, and the funny thing is that's a Top Gun. Those are Navy guys anyway. So I told him that later on. I was like, hey, that doesn't even apply to the Air Force thing. And also I'm not a pilot, but it's all right. It stuck. I liked it. It was fun. And it was cool at the hunting center when you'd hear the guys saying it was pretty fun.
So I want to get into a few of your teammates over your time here. First one, he's a good friend of ours, Brandon Hawkins.
Yeah.
Kind of just talk about him shooting on you every day at practice.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's got a missile. He's, it's funny. He came up in a conversation. Oh, I was talking to one of my buddies the other day. He was a basketball player in college, and he said, like, what's the difference between skating with guys in the minors versus, because I've skated a little bit with some guys in the NHL.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, I was like, hey, out of everybody I've ever skated with, by far the best shot was a guy that was playing with me in the coast. And as Hawks has an absolute missile. The one time in practice, I I really wouldn't get in the net for it. Like if he was doing one timer or something, I was like, hey man, like I'm playing Friday, Saturday. It's like I'd rather not take a Hawkins one timer to the collarbone and shatter my collarbone. So, and then also on top of his shot, it's like that guy with his trick moves and his like he's always doing the Michigan stuff. And it was like we do shootouts then in practice, and he was actually good about it. He knew if I was playing the next day, he wouldn't do any of that stuff on me because he knew I'd just flip out and it'd just get in my head. It's like got Hawkins coming down and doing like 4 360s, pucks on his stick, like just and then just ripping it top shelf. I was like, all right, just no way to get your confidence up for the game. But yeah, awesome dude, and yeah, it seems like he's really he's become the guy there in Toledo, and that's awesome. Super happy for him. And it's like that guy runs that town now, it looks like, as he should.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. If you listen back to our interview with him, he talks about how a guy Michigan, his team, when he was a kid and he broke 3 sticks. So I asked him when you were coming on if he had any good stories about you, and he gave me 2. One, he told me I had to ask you about when somebody drove a truck through your Airbnb house.
Yeah, that was a crazy story.
In the middle of playoffs.
Yeah, we're in playoffs, and we're like getting on the bus on. Oh man, I can't remember what it was. It's like we're coming home from a game. Like, you know, we just finish up and we're gonna come home and then play again the next day. So, you know, I'm just like trying to get on the bus, get a little sleep, get back, and my phone's like blowing up, and I'm usually trying not to answer. I'm like, okay, whatever. Somebody's calling me like 6 times. Get a call, and it's like I think it was the police, and they're like, hey, there's a truck in your living room. I'm like, what are you talking about? So apparently during our game, somebody bulldozed their F-250 through the living room of one of the rental houses. So I was like, this is not the time I want to deal with that. And yeah, Hawks had a great laugh about that, seeing me just super flustered in the middle of playoffs on the bus home, trying to figure out what to do about that. So yeah, that's pretty funny that he still remembers that one.
Yeah, and the other one is that you run a mile every day, even if it's a full blizzard.
Yeah, that's actually, let me pull it up right now. Let me see what we're at. I've got on my phone here. Let's see, just did today. So we're at 1,214 days right now. So a little over 3 years. It actually started in right before one of those walleye seasons, right before that last season. I was just like, you know, my brother's a huge runner, and like he does ultra marathons and all these things, and I've never been a runner. And I was like, okay. He's like, hey, have you ever heard of this guy that did a mile streak? And I was like, I don't know what that is. He's like, he ran a mile for like over 30 years every single day. So something like that. I was like, you know, I'll try it. So I ran a mile a couple of days, and then all of a sudden it just like stuck. And yeah, Hawks would give me a lot of crap because we'd be, you know, coming home after a 3-3 and it'd be like 11:30 p.m. and it's like, oh yeah, I haven't run my mile today, and it's like a blizzard, and I got to go run outside. I don't know if the guys are still living in the same place, but I'd have to go run like, you know, down the neighborhood street in a blizzard, and he loved giving it to me for that.
The next guy's Josh Kessner. Guy had an unreal year here. What was he like?
He was awesome. He was, you know, it's funny because he like super skilled guy, but like, I guess just his raw skills weren't like the best thing I've ever seen. I mean, he's super skilled. He did really well, but he was just such a smart player and just so good at what he did. And he was such a like gifted goal scorer. It's like when he got the puck on his stick, he was scoring goals. And another unreal guy. He was just like really good in the locker room, really, really fun to be around. And yeah, he was definitely deserving of some of those later contracts that he got. And yeah, just a really good, and you know, him and I had kind of a little bit of a bond too, being Southern guys. He's from Alabama, I was from North Carolina. So that's not something you see a lot is those guys from down south that are end up being pretty good hockey players. So yeah, he was a fun dude.
Next, I got 2 more: TJ Hensick and Shane Burschbeck.
Yeah, those just 2 Toledo legends for sure. Bershey he was awesome. I wish I got to play with him longer, see more of his Toledo prime, but man, he was he was another guy. He was just like quiet guy. He didn't say a ton in the locker room, but just guys loved him. And he was another guy that was just like a wizard with the puck and such a good playmaker and so fun to be around. And yeah, he's still out there in Toledo, right? Toledo,
Bursch?
Yeah, or is he up in Michigan now?
I think he's in Michigan.
Okay, yeah, but no, that's another Toledo legend, and yeah, unreal dude. And then Henny was another guy. Is super fortunate to be able to play. It's like how many times when you're playing the coast, you don't get that many guys who have been to the NHL and played that many games. And he was on like World Junior teams, and he was on Michigan, and they were unbelievable. So just seeing a guy like that was playing for so long and still like obviously loved it so much that he was playing in the coast, and it was pretty cool. The last year when I was there, he was kind of just talking about how at that point he was basically just playing for his kids because his son just loved coming to the rink and hanging out in the locker room with the guys, and he would always be there waiting to play bubble hockey after. Even like we lose a game and everybody's kind of all pissed off, but there he is. He's there. He's ready to take on the next guy in bubble hockey. So it was always fun having him in the locker room, and because the coast is such a unique place. Like you get 19-year-olds, and then you also get guys like Henny with kids. So it's right. Yeah, it was cool to have him be a captain of that team.
Looking back on it though, what was your favorite part?
Man, it's tough to say. There were so many good things about Toledo, and it was just, I think, just kind of that was the place that gave me an opportunity to actually play pro hockey, because I'd bounced around in South Carolina and then got cut there, and it was cool because Toledo, they didn't care about like the contracts. They got guys on contract or whatever. They got these guys that they got to play. Toledo was just, they just wanted to win hockey games. So if you come in and you're winning games, it's they're going to keep playing you. So I think just getting put in an organization like that where they care so much about winning, and then on top of that, I think obviously the reason they do is because the fans are so passionate. The fans want it so bad, and making that run to the Kelly Cup finals, it's like you could tell how badly all those fans wanted it, and how bad we wanted it too. So just playing for a place that makes you feel like pretty much like you're playing in the NHL, but you're playing in the East Coast League. There's no place like it.
And my last one I got for you. We always leave the floor to the guests at the end, but what do you have to say to Toledo and the fans?
Man, you guys are awesome. It's it was definitely the highlight of my hockey career was playing there in Toledo, and just the way the city embraced the team, embraced me, and kind of just like I said, made us feel like true superstars, even though we're guys that are playing the coast. That's the reason that Toledo's always so good, is because everybody wants to play there. Everybody wants to play in front of the sold out crowd every night in the Huntington Center, and it's just like there's really no place like it. And I seriously hope that a championship comes soon, because those fans, and they've been waiting, and they deserve one for sure.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know everybody will be excited to listen to it. So thank you so much, Billy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And we're back. Travis, man, thank you again for sitting down with Billy and doing that. Just an awesome guy, you can tell. And I think one of the biggest things is just like how much he appreciates that people still want to hear from him, or still remember him, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Like when he sent me a message, I was like, he's like, oh, it's cool that people still remember me. I was like, dude, you were like one of the best goalies that Toledo's had. Like, how could they not remember you? So super cool of him. I'm obviously trying to get a couple more of the more current guys on. We did the Storm in the summer. Just trying to get some of the other alumni that the Walleye have had. I mean, there's so many different teams throughout the years, but just to get a start on their alumni of their current iteration of Toledo hockey was a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. And I know we're definitely going to have more of this down the road, and some other fun, exciting stuff that we're already lining up. So It's only going to get better from here. But let's dive into some of these games, right? The Walleye have played 3 games since we last talked. They had the school day game, which they unfortunately dropped in overtime. They had the crazy Friday game where we saw them put up a snowman on the scoreboard. And then Saturday's game where they end up winning the game in a thrilling shootout. Honestly, just a fun game that I was able to catch bits and pieces of between Grand Rapids' game as well. So let's talk a little bit about the Wednesday game, man. What happened here?
Just another one of them Wednesday morning games that they just couldn't really win. It's like, I think I heard on the Iowa broadcast, somebody put out that they haven't won a morning game in Toledo since 2019. So before COVID.
What?
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. I remember last year I was mowing and they played, I think it was Wheeling, and they were down like 4 in the third, come back and tied it and lost. But, Carson Bantle got them started, 4:06 the second period from Cruz and Sawyer. Iowa responded at 16:37, and then Griffin Ness scored at 3:06 of the third. But late in the third, 15-19, Iowa tied it, and then they won 111 into the overtime period. So, it's just tough. Like, I don't know. And again, like tomorrow now they play, which that game will have already happened by the time you hear this, but they play Iowa again tomorrow morning. So it's going to be interesting to see. I know when I talked to Speed this Sunday, his emphasis was we got to start better. So, and I think that's the biggest thing with these morning games is it's way different than a regular day for the players. You're normally going there for a morning skate at that time versus having to go play games. And most guys take naps during the day before games. So it's just a completely different process. But, I think any one of them will tell you, they're still professionals and they want to go out and win the games.
Yeah, I mean, those ones are tough. I couldn't imagine being a player in that situation, getting just, completely thrown off your routine. But at the same time, it's professional hockey. It's minor league hockey. These school day games are pretty much a tradition. So it's kind of one of those things that they've got to figure out eventually. The stat that they haven't won a morning game since 2019 is mind-boggling to me. You just kind of hope that knowing that they play tomorrow morning, whereas after recording this, that they kind of figure out what the remedy is and get something going with that, because you can't just keep giving these easy wins up. At least this one was overtime. At least they took a point out of this one. I guess that's one big takeaway there. And, seeing Ness again score a goal again, like this kid's on absolute fire. I know we'll talk more about him as these weekend games go on too. But yeah, it's not, I hate seeing how many of these games are on their schedule. At least the Griffins, when they had theirs, they've won both of theirs this season. And, the one that they started off really bad with, they turned it on and played a fantastic game. So hopefully the Walleye can do the same.
I think the biggest thing, it's their last one. So I think tomorrow is their last one when I had looked. So hopefully that, these will be done and over with and they won't have to worry about it moving forward. It's back to business as normal.
Yeah, we need business as normal. We like business as normal around here. Trust me, I wish I wasn't doing this from a hotel room. I prefer business as usual here too. I can't tell how stupid I look on this side of the screen, but hey, here I am. Anyways, let's move on to Friday's game, because I think this is one that'll take up a decent amount of our time. But before we move on to Friday's game, let's toss it over to an ad break here real quick. And when we come back, we'll dive into Friday and Saturday's game and a little bit more.
The 24-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
There's nothing like the excitement of watching NHL hockey live and in person. The sounds of the puck hitting the boards, the players slamming guys up against the glass. There's truly nothing like it, and it's never been easier to save money on your tickets than now with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
And welcome back. All right, Friday's game. a snowman on the board. Like, one, that's pretty rare in hockey to see this many goals scored. Like, when I saw touchdown Toledo on Twitter, I was like, is the college football team playing tonight? Nope, it's the Walleye out here. And then they go ahead and add one more. And obviously the biggest storyline out of this is Sam Craggs with a hat trick. You know, a guy that he didn't score his first goal of the season until they were back home to start the season, and has absolutely kind of been on a tear since then. But run me through what happened in this game.
Well, before we go into that, we got to announce, we didn't do it at the beginning of the show, there was a piece of news. Matt Anderson coming home, didn't get any games with the Marlies. From the way it sounds, kind of asked for a release. It sounded like they wanted to send him to Cincy. Toledo had his rights, and they wouldn't budge, and Pat wouldn't budge. So
Way to go, Pat.
Credit to him. He came back, and man, he was noticed right away. The kid can skate, man. That's just the biggest thing. Like, the kid flies, and he was on the score sheet in the first 2 minutes of the game. So, and it's funny because they put him with Smerek, which when I watched the rushes, I was like, that's quite a choice to put both of them together. But I guess it worked out. But yeah, back to Craigs. I mean, like, he had a great night. Anytime you put 3 on the board's big. Just kind of go through the game. Trenton Bliss scored at 47 seconds on their first shot from Brandon Cruz and Sam Craggs. Then Smerek gets his first of the year from Lewandowski and Matt Anderson at 2:33. Bloomington answered at 16:08. In the second period, Brandon Cruz, assisted by Colin Sawyer and Sam Craggs at 6:57. 16:33, Sam Craggs unassisted. 17:44, we thought was Smerek's second goal of the game. Ended up being Tyler Spezia from Smerek and Matt Anderson. So Anderson 2 points in his return. Smerek goal and an assist. 19:28, Sam Craggs from Brandon Cruz and Mitchell Lewandowski. And we're still not done, folks. We still got the third period. 2 more goals to go through here. Sam Craggs from Casey Dornbach and Brandon Cruz at 9:52, and at 13:59, Tyler Spezia from Grant Gabriel and Brandon Hawkins. Sam Craggs, 5-point night, 3 goals, 2 assists. Huge night for him. I didn't even realize when I was talking to him that he had 2 assists for 5 points. I just remember the hat trick because that's what everybody's going to remember. It was Christmas vacation night. The jerseys actually looked incredible. I was a huge fan of them. Smerek getting his first of the year. Anderson 2 points. Like, Bliss scoring at 47 seconds. Spezia 2 goals. It just, like, Spezia kind of even said the one night I talked to him, he's like, I don't think I've ever seen this many fortuitous bounces in a hockey game. So just kind of a crazy night where it seemed like anything they shot was going in the net. The second goal it would have been Spezia's first goal of the night. Just a weird play to where it like hit the glass, flew back into the crease and went in the net. Like, it was just bizarre. It seemed like anything that was going on net was going in. So, it's just crazy. And again, Bednar played in this one. Bednar played Wednesday, and we'll say again, Bednar played Sunday. So they're really riding Bednar right now. He's playing really well too, I've thought. But yeah, that's kind of how Friday night went. It was an onslaught. I mean, you're up 2 within 3 minutes. It's just like, oh boy, here we go. This might be one of them nights. And they got a snowman on the board, and the whole place was going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll step back to the jerseys because there's one comment I have to make, and it's the first time I think we've seen Jan Bednar's pads make sense on a jersey. Like,
yeah.
I didn't realize you had the candy cane look until you saw the Christmas jerseys with it, and you're like, oh man, that works really well. And I'm sure Hall of Framers will do some nice photos of him signed there because that combination was sick. Matt Anderson, his impact being felt that quickly, like, in talking to Pat, I didn't really know much about Matt heading into this, and seeing what he was able to do immediately, like, it was a missing piece that this team really needed. And it kind of feels like a mid-season acquisition, honestly, like a trade deadline acquisition, but mid-season. That's just going to be an extra push that they're going to get throughout the rest of the season now on the back end there. That's just they needed one more offensive-minded defenseman back there, and look what they got. And Jalen getting his first goal, dude, that felt so good. Like, I know he felt good after that game. You and I have been dying for that goal just so you could talk to him in post game. Not that we need him to score to talk to him in post game, but we've been waiting for that reaction there. And, friend of the show at this point, such a nice guy. And you're just happy to see one go his way, even though one more was taken from him by another tip in. But, that's how it goes, right? But yeah, overall, just a fantastic game, man. This was one that, while I was watching the Griffins that night, unfortunately, have probably their worst game of the season. I'm watching the Toledo updates just going, oh my God, what is happening?
It was nuts, man. I mean, like, literally the first shot of the game goes in, and it was very identical to the goal that Bliss scored against Orlando from almost the same angle, just actually a little closer to the goal line. And it was just like, oh boy, we scored on the first shot. And then I think we scored on the third shot, and I was just like, uh-oh, this is going to be a long night. Like, you just had that feeling, and it ended up going that way. And, I will say, like, I think I called you on the way home, and I was like, dude, I think I heard everything from Shania Twain to the most rap song you could ever hear to any other sort of music after that game, standing outside the locker room waiting for post game. So they were having themselves a hell of a night after the game.
As they should, man. Well deserved after that one. But yeah, it's just good to see. You don't call it a bounce back because there's an overtime loss, but it was a bounce back. It's a win that they needed. It's a dominant, like, that was Toledo hockey. Like, when you think about the Walleye, you think about wins like that, and that was 100% one of those games.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you lose a game, you don't want it to kind of spiral, and they nipped it in the butt pretty quick. So
they've been good at that most of the season. I think they've only had one skid all season so far.
Yeah, it's one of them things, like, it doesn't matter what level of hockey you watch. Like, you can watch the NHL. Like, teams go through it. Like, even the great teams. Like, look at the Oilers this year. Like, they started rough, and I seen last night they're on, like, almost a 670 points percentage since, like, the 9th game of the year. So it's like, you're going to have that rough week, 2 weeks. Sometimes it's back-to-back. Sometimes you hit a spell in October. Sometimes you hit one in March. It's just kind of it's just how it goes. I mean, and like you said, I think when they did hit that little bit of a setback, it was only like 3 games, which down here is a full week. But, it's a credit to them. They're a pretty resilient team already this year. I think you're starting to see that. But, it was interesting because you didn't know what to expect going into Saturday, which my favorite game of the year, Teddy Bear Toss Night. I know it was awesome, and boy, did Toledo show up. I think the total was 4,855 teddy bears. I think
out of
they
a
posted
7,500 seat arena. Yeah.
It's pretty good. I mean, obviously you wish everybody could bring one, but, some people may not have even known. It's just one of them things, but just be happy to see that 4,000 people are going to have something for Christmas. I think that's the one thing that, for me, makes me smile.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's one of my favorite games of the year. It's one of the best traditions in hockey, honestly. And seeing that turn out like that, and again, I'll give Toledo their kudos here for how they do broadcasting. Having Jordan Strack on the ice, literally interviewing players live, was honestly just a great, awesome thing to watch on the broadcast when I was watching it at home. And even Hawk giving him, some beautiful moments on the ice there.
He roasted him twice.
He roasted him and then dropped elf quotes like twice in it. So like you just hear him in the background yelling Santa. Like what a character that dude is. But that, again, just credit to them being like interviewing the goal scorer right away as the Bears are still flying. Like, that's so cool. And yeah, Toledo, well done as always on basically everything you guys do. Well done.
Yeah. I mean, before we get into the whole the breakdown here, there was a small piece of news before this game that they traded Furiello to Atlanta for future considerations. Obviously, if you're a Red Wings fan, you got a pretty, I guess the word would be frustrating reaction when you see future considerations, but down here you actually do get something back. So we'll see what that is. I'm sure it'll probably be in either the summer or towards the end of the year. And, it's kind of interesting with last year, them getting up defensemen from them. So Pat obviously familiar with making a deal with them last year to get Graves, and this year trading them for Uriolo, which honestly you're happy for the player. Hopefully he gets to see the ice more than he did up here. But we'll see what happens with the future considerations part. But breaking down the game as a whole, no scoring in the first period. Second period, Bloomington actually took the lead at 6:04. Toledo responded at 6:43 with Griffin Ness. Got shut down on a breakaway right away, or not long after Bloomington scored. Ness had a breakaway and got stopped, but then made the most of a second opportunity. And then at 11:11, Dalton Messina, assisted by Casey Dornbach and Griffin Ness. Griffin Ness's goal was also assisted by Darian Pilon and Grant Gabriel. And then we transition to the third period. Bloomington gets a goal at 5:05. That evened things up. And then at 8:24, Tyler Spezia gives Toledo the lead from Hawkins and Bliss. And I was already downstairs late in the game. And then Bloomington ties it late. And, I'm standing there and, the scratches were standing next to me, and I was, just talking to them. And they were like, oh, no. And then it's we go to overtime, and it felt like we didn't, control the puck that much. And Bednar made a huge couple saves. And, we go to the shootout. Toledo wins the shootout. I believe it was 2-1, yeah. Hawkins was no good, which is shocking. But, it is what it is. Griffin Ness, though, man, Pat going to the kid. I mean, it's funny because Pat's...
Ballsy. I loved it.
Yeah, and I asked him about it, and he goes, it was predetermined. So they knew they were going to Griffin Ness, and to put him in the 2 holes, quite a position to go. And then Lewandowski gets the game-winning goal. But to kind of go back to Griffin Ness, Pat had talked to me, he made a funny comment. I think he's got the highest shooting percentage in the league because he doesn't shoot a lot, but when he does, they go in the net. So, if you're living good, you're living right. And he's certainly living right now. So the way he's
turned out
going,
to be a stud in this league, man.
Oh, I know.
Pat found something in this kid, and he's producing up and down the lineup. And to go into that pressure situation in the shootout, I don't know if he's done a shootout goal in the pro or shootout attempt in the pros yet. And Nets that one, and it was a nice one.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to talk about just his confidence level, right? To know that you're going to be the guy that gets to go. Credit to Pat for putting the confidence in the kid to go. I mean, it's a tough situation. It's, I got to do it once playing youth hockey, and it's pretty nerve-wracking, let alone, doing it at a professional level. So credit to him. Spezia, man, had a great week. 2 goals Friday, 1 goal Saturday. So, it was good to have him kind of back in the lineup. I know he was back in the lineup. He missed a couple games last week, but, and then to get Bliss back, that kind of just solidified that first line again. I know they haven't really been going lately. Their big guns have kind of, that top line's been kind of quiet, I would say, relative to what they were doing at the beginning of the season. But, man, their depth scoring is coming through clutch right now.
It really is. And, the top line being quiet is okay. When you have all lines rolling, which basically they do have all lines rolling at this point. I mean, you're seeing Cruz put up a good amount of points. You're seeing Craig score a ton of goals. The first line can go quiet. You just don't want it to go quiet for very long. But it's also been quiet because of the inconsistency of who they're with in the lineup. Bliss missed some time. Spezia missed some time. Hawk's been there every freaking game because you have to drag him off the ice kicking and screaming at this point, I'm pretty sure. But at the same time, that inconsistency can throw a lot of things off. I mean, just look at Grand Rapids with the injuries and seeing how much one player in the forward lineup can change everything for you when they're gone. So it's good to see the depth still coming through the way it is.
Yeah, and, you're not going to – and I think Spezia even said it Sunday, look, you're not going to win a championship without depth scoring, so you need that. And is kind of the first time somebody's mentioned that word, which is interesting. But, he's not wrong. You need depth. They got a lot of depth this year. I think they're deeper than last year, especially when everybody's in the lineup. Just as a whole, though, I mean, they're playing pretty well for the most part. You can't complain with how the season started for them. I mean, they're in first. They're going real well right now. I think one thing that's exciting for the fans is, like, you see, like, just how well they're playing as a whole. Granted, you're pretty used to it, but still, I mean, just to know that you're off to this good of a start. I mean, 22 games, you're 14-5-3 for 31 points and a 705 points percentage. Like, you can't complain. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, well, nothing matters till April, but, everything's a precursor till April anyway. So just take the games as they come. I know that, like, the players are taking it day by day. And, it's funny when you, like, do this every day now for the show. It's like, man, I'm glad that it is a day by day thing, because I don't know how I would be able to do it if it was like going at a much faster rate.
Yeah, I'm glad we handle it that way too. And win or lose right now, just the best thing about this team is they're fun to watch. Even in the games that they've lost, the games are still fun to watch. When you have games where a team gets blown out or they lose, like like I said, in the Griffins Friday night played probably their worst game of the season, and it was tough to watch. It was kind of miserable. And even the games that Toledo has dropped, they're still fun, and the fans are still having fun. And there's no way as a fan right now you're not looking at this team going, wow, yeah, they're better than last year. Like, this team's deep. Like, they're special. I mean, we're not going to throw around the C word too much. The boys don't do it, so we won't either. But at the same time, like, you got to start thinking it a little bit, right? Once you get past the Christmas break and they're still rolling like this, then man, it's going to start to feel like something really special. And we've had a lot of special teams in Toledo, and this one just feels like another one of them.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it was last night. Lindy Ruff was like, after about 20 games, you know what you got. I think Toledo kind of knows what they have. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. Obviously, you're approaching Christmas and you're in a good spot. It's just exciting. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up. I know they keep releasing more jerseys. They released the Catrick jersey the other day. Some people like it. Some. Yeah, I mean, it's just not my favorite. But
I'm just happy they're doing a St. Patrick's Day jersey. I miss the Griffins doing those. I don't know why they ever stopped doing them. I do love a St. Patrick's jersey. And, Catrick, has he had a jersey yet? Like, you see Spike on every jersey. Like, has Patrick had one?
I don't think so. Not that I can remember, at least.
Well, good for him. He's got a jersey.
Especially since I started following. They did that one. The Legends of Hockey came out, which is fully stitched. I know the fans loved that. The cream one that they're going to wear up in Kalamazoo.
Yeah, that thing's beautiful, man. I'm going to need one of those.
They are sharp. They did a really, really nice job. Just goes to show they need to do that on every jersey. But that was a big topic of discussion in the Toledo fan page group today and yesterday. So outside of that, man, I don't have a whole lot left. I hope that everybody enjoyed the Billy Christopoulos piece. Like I said, we'll be working on some other stuff here in the future with former alumni, with that being the Walleye. So just hope everybody enjoyed that.
What else is on the schedule coming up for them? Obviously they play tomorrow morning, but what's after that?
So they're in Iowa tomorrow and Friday night, and then they hit Bloomington on the way home Saturday, and that's their schedule for this week. They're off Sunday.
Nice. Okay. The interesting road trip will be fun to watch. And of course, as always, follow along with us for updates and highlights and all that fun stuff. But yeah, man, I don't have much else either. I'm sure the listeners are already sick of my audio in this situation anyways. So we'll wrap this thing up, and just thank you everyone for tuning in. And like Travis said, hope you enjoyed the Billy piece. We can't wait to bring more of that stuff to you. And as always, we got to thank our sponsors of the show, DraftKings, Game Time, and of course the Hockey Podcast Network for being fantastic partners with us. And of course, the long-standing primary sponsor of the show, Everything Hockey. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST, save a few bucks off your order, pick up some hoodies. I'm repping one of theirs right now. I would move, but it would blow your eardrums out with the way my mic's sitting right now and show you the hoodie, but I'm not doing that. But yeah, make sure you head over there, support them, support the show. We love those guys. They're fantastic to work with. So yeah, make sure you head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Join all the others that supported the show. I would list them all off like we always do, but I don't have the list in front of me in this hotel room, and I don't think Travis has it either. So sorry, folks, but you know who you are, and we love you and appreciate you guys for supporting the show. So thank you. And like we said, if you want to join them, Hockeytown West or patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast, just head over there and check it out. But with that, let's wrap this thing up. Thank you, everyone, again for tuning in. I hope everybody has a fantastic week. And as always, go Griffins, go Walleye, and we will talk to y'all again soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.